So now that we've got the waistband attached, we're going to do a hem on our rough bottom hem here. Okay, so we've got a big circle that we're going to have to turn under, just like we've done with our examples in the past. So we're going to take this and turn it under a 1/2 inch, and then turn it under a full inch, okay? And then sew it all the way around so that it has this nice, nice pretty edge like that, okay? So we can go ahead and mark this for accuracy, for sure, of where we're going to turn it under. So I can take my ruler and come a 1/2 inch from the edge for that first turn, and then remember we want another full inch from that 1/2 inch. So total it's 1.5 inch from the edge, so 1/2 inch and then a full inch, okay? So I can press this up all the way around and then press that inch up all the way around, okay? And then what I want you to make sure is when you get to the 3 places where you have seams like this, is that you're making sure you're keeping that nice and straight, okay? Just like we did for our samples. You're gonna turn that up nice and straight, really nice and neat, and then for your inch, nice and neat, so that these seams are still matching, and this will make sure that your hem is perfect, okay? So get that pressed. Okay, so once we've got the skirt all pressed, we're ready to sew. So again, I've got it pressed up a 1/2 inch and then 1 more full inch, so it looks really nice and neat. And there's 2 different ways that we can sew this. Just like with the waistband, we can do it by machine, and if so, ideally we're going to do a top stitch on the actual top of the garment, not on the inside, because we want to make sure that our prettiest, best stitch that we can see is on the top. So if we do that, we're going to want to kind of look through, see how you can kind of see the double, and we're going to aim for very close to this edge of the turn, like maybe 1/8 or 1/4 of an inch from that edge. So we can do that on top by sort of looking through. And we can also do a hand slip stitch. So I'm going to show you a little bit of how I would do this as a machine hem, and then a little bit of how I would do it as a hand hem. So usually if I'm doing something like a hem or anything like this that's going the full circle of the garment, I usually start on the back or on a side seam, basically near one of the seams, so that if I've got a knot or if I've got a place where I'm going over it, it's not like right in the front, something like that. So I'll start on the side, and again I'm sewing from the top, but I can see through. I can see through to make sure that I'm in the right space. So I'm gonna hand walk those first few stitches, and I'm just gonna sew, keeping it really close to that edge. And I'll just sew a little bit here so I can show you what this looks like. So again, this nice, neat, straight line, and you can see I've caught about 1/8 of an inch away from the edge, and it looks nice and neat on both sides. And the idea is I would just sew that all the way around, and then again, because I started here on the side seam, when I get back over here to the side seam, I can pull my threads around to the back and tie a nice little knot, and it'll look nice and neat from the outside. Okay, so that's one way that you can catch that hem, right? And then I could also do a hand slip stitch, and I'll do this on the other side seam so I can show you. So again, usually I'm going to take my knot and hide it. So in this case, I'm coming from that turn, and I'm coming right through the center, so the knot is totally hidden, and I can pick just a few threads, just 1 or 2 threads to do my slip stitch, and then come right across and get into the fold of the fabric. Okay, so again, 1 or 2 threads, a really tiny pick, and then coming right into the fold of the fabric. And so from the outside, you'll really only see these few tiny picks. And again, imagine if you did that in a matching thread, you wouldn't be able to see it at all. But in this case, we are using a contrast thread so that we can see, so that I can see exactly how your stitches are turning out and any mistakes that you are making. So, and I could just continue doing this by hand all the way around, again catching one or two threads and then going right into the fold of that fabric. And I would continue this all the way around. So on the outside I would just see these picks I'm doing about a 1/2 inch apart. And that is really nice and neat and pretty. So you can do your hem either way. You can do it by hand, or you can also do it as a machine hem as I've shown. And then either way, just make sure, pull any knots or threads towards the inside, tie them off so it looks nice and neat, and you've got your completed skirt. And here we have the full skirt completed on a mannequin. And so you can see how these front darts, she's a little bit smaller than the actual skirt. She's got a little room in her waistband, and her front darts would curve around her hips, but she doesn't exactly fill it out. Here's that slight curve of the side seam. And here's those back darts. And again, she's a little bit smaller, but you can see how this gives shape around the fullest part of her hips back through here. And again, this waistband is kind of a little bit larger than her. She's like the next size down from where this skirt needs to be. And then her hem is a pretty long hem down there. But you can see the fit and how it slightly shapes around those hips.